It is 6 p.m. on Monday, July 7th. I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Winooski City Council. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Deputy Mayor Thomas Renner.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Agenda review is first. Any concerns about the order this evening? No. All right. Next up is public comment. If you're here for something not on the agenda, now would be the time to join us, please. All right, just please introduce yourself and then feel free.
Good evening. My name is Lucas Peltier. I'm a resident in the LaFountain Street corridor. Go by he, him pronouns. First of all, I want to thank all of you for all of your staunch advocacy for equity and for all of the hard work that you do daily. I suppose my first point would be I'm excited about the new construction, even though it's a short-term pain. It's a long-term gain for all of us. And I'm also excited to hear about the progression of the Sugar House Hotel project and all of the densified parking with the parking garage and the potential for lots of EV charging. So I suppose my first question is, I wonder if we can apply some of the same like EV infrastructure to the existing garage. Might help get people, attract more people to the area, boost business and commerce. I think that's something that could potentially help. Also kind of along those same lines, perhaps in more of a long-term vision, thinking about repurposing some of the car dedicated spaces that are in front of many Winooski businesses, since we do have a lot of street parking and we have a large garage at our disposal to be able to densify our parking needs. And in the same breath, I wonder if, sometime like next year for the farmers market that is blooming in a great way, it's attracting the community in. I wonder if we can expand the space to include the entire street on the half of Winooski Falls Way, since the garage could theoretically still be accessible from East Allen and from the opposite side of Winooski Falls. Potentially that could provide more space for vendors, more space for people to wander and increase their dwell time, which could theoretically lead to more money being spent within the city. People want to spend more time. So these are kind of some of the ideas that are just kind of floating around in my mind about like, how do we encourage people to come here, even though there's a lot of construction happening that deters a lot of people. And there was one more point I wanted to raise. Oh yeah, public, in the public safety kind of lens. I wonder if it would be feasible for us to install signals, crossing signals and traffic calming to make people feel safer, because when people feel safer, they're more apt to spend more time here, spend more money here, increase their dwell time, and make it make Winooski a more enjoyable place to be and a more equitable place for non-drivers. Thank you. I appreciate everything.
Thank you, Lucas. I can share just a couple of quick things. Thanks for the comments. We do have our comprehensive municipal plan update happening next year, which this stuff is all good for. We've got Deputy Mayor Renner here who liaises to our downtown Winooski board and can bring some feedback about the farmer's market there. And the crosswalk signals, traffic calming, stuff we have in our transportation master plan, traffic calming plan. But good to hear as we always ahead of the annual budget process. Related to the EV infrastructure, I think we're trying to get a grant to do a plan for that, and it didn't work out.
We do have the grant for the electric vehicle charging plan. We don't have a grant for the comprehensive plan.
Okay.
And we actually do have chargers in the current garage. They're very new and they are not working yet.
They are working.
Oh, they are now? Okay.
They are now working. There are 9 orange charging stations located in the Cascades garage. They were turned on mid-May.
Oh, wow.
What floor?
I don't know what floors they were installed on. Rauscher, do you know where they were installed? Cummings just did the work. I just get the invoice.
Yeah, offhand, can't say. They're on multiple floors, basically where we had some outlets that needed to be replaced anyways. We converted them to, they're only level 1 chargers, so, you know, the lowest level of charging. So they're not like your typical level 2 charger, but yeah, more to come on that because we have to do some more sign designations and marking those out and doing probably some outreach on those units. But we do have, I think, at least more than 6, I believe.
9 total.
9, yeah.
All right, good news. Thank you. All right, seeing no other members of the public, we'll move to our consent agenda. So we have our council meeting minutes from June 25th, the payroll warrant from June 8 to June 21, accounts payable warrants for June 26 and July 2nd, a sidewalk permit application for Tika House. That one, staff note in the cover sheet is to be conditional pending full staff approval. Board reappointments for the Local Resource Advisory Board and Green Mountain Transit Board of Trustees. A resolution recognizing July as Disability Pride Month in Winooski, and the Wolfscart Winooski Air Out Event Permit application. Any concerns with the consent agenda this evening? Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Motion by Charlie, second by Thomas. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. We are on to council reports. Could I start with you, Charlie?
Yeah, as I announced at our last meeting, the Winooski Housing Commission did not meet last month, so I'll have more updates at the end of the month or the beginning of August, hopefully.
Great. Thomas?
Yeah, last Sunday was the French Heritage Festival in Winooski. Nice to see a lot of folks in here there. It was a really great event. To your point, Lucas, that is a bigger event than it has been in the past. So it was really, really fantastic to see so many people coming to Winooski and celebrating. So thank you to everyone who came to town, especially the Marquis de Lafayette, who came all the way from the 1700s. Also, thank you to all the vendors and all the staff who made sure that it could happen and that it was a safe, fun event for everybody. Same report in terms of my commissions. They haven't met since we last met, so nothing there. Yeah.
Thank you. Great job emceeing.
Thank you.
Finance Commission is meeting tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. To review recommended changes to the small business loan program and a potential new tier for Main Street construction impacts. And the Planning Commission has their meeting on Thursday, July 10th at 6:30 p.m. I don't think the agenda's out yet. That's it for me.
The Infrastructure Commission did not meet this past month. I'm working on connecting with the chair and with John to see if there are agenda items for this month. But I will be out. Our regular scheduled meeting would be next Thursday if we do have meetings. So if any of my co-counselors want to fill in, let me know. I'll relay if there is a meeting.
Okay.
Chittenden Solid Waste District had their annual meeting at the end of last month. It was the same evening as our special council meeting, so I was unable to attend. The bridge replacement committee met, and that was at the same time as the press event for the hotel. So I did not attend that, but many of our staff were on that call from what I understand. So Elaine and others might be able to fill in. But the main takeaway from that is they're working on a job description to have a similar role as Mosaic has for Main Street right now. But it would serve the entire like project area, so Burlington and Winooski, for the duration of the bridge replacement project. And maybe an individual, or it may be a organization, a company that could win that job position. It'd be time limited for the duration of the project, but it would require to have at least one full-time employee dedicated to that role, which is really fantastic news. And they would essentially be reporting to the project team that V-Trans hired, but you can correct me if I have
Oh,
anything
you got it. That was great.
amiss there. Trinity Solid Waste District will be meeting this month. Usually it's the fourth Thursday, but they're meeting on July 30th this month. So online and in person at their office in South Burlington, if anyone is interested. So that's all I got.
So I don't have a whole lot beyond just boosting again that inclusion and belonging. Like a lot of our commissions are still looking for new commissioners. So definitely reach out if folks are interested.
Thank you for that reminder. City updates, Elaine.
Yes, inclusion, belonging, and finance in particular. Actually, I guess I should amend or addendum to Bryn's update about the community liaison. So it would be filling some of what that group is doing in terms of outreach to businesses, in terms of what it can do for marketing support, which is a lot of what the Mosaic campaign is doing. That's to be determined because it depends on participating costs from the federal government, what could be allowed. City updates. So in case you missed it, city officials recently joined Nettie Real Estate, East Rise Credit Union, and project partners to celebrate the groundbreaking of the Sugar House Hotel in downtown Winooski. Progress does continue with an expected opening of summer 2026. That will bring 83 middle-income housing rental opportunities to our city, over 50 new jobs to our local economy, and 276 new parking spaces in the brand new 3-level city garage. You can visit nettierealestate.com to learn more. Homeowners in Winooski are invited to attend our accessory dwelling unit workshop on July 23rd. Accessory dwelling units are often referred to as ADUs. An ADU is a smaller, independent dwelling unit that is located on the same lot as an existing single-family home, duplex, or triplex. They used to be called like mother-in-law units, that sort of thing. Building them can offer an additional source of income and is an option to help address Vermont's housing crisis. During the workshop, homeowners will discover the benefits of ADUs and the process required to build them in Winooski. You'll learn about Act 181 and the Vermont Housing Improvement Program, which can provide funding to ADU projects, and also hear from a panel of local ADU owners. A Zoom option is available, and the event will be recorded by Town Meeting TV for viewing later online if you can't attend. And finally, we're hosting a blood drive at the Senior Center on July 18th. Your donations help save lives. Visit the news updates section on our website to make your appointment. All participants will receive a free Fandango movie ticket. That's all.
All right, thank you. So we'll move into our regular items. First up for discussion approval is the emergency purchase request for security cameras for Cascades parking garage.
I'll start us off and then we've got some folks here. So for the last few years, the stairwells and other emergency exit path of the current city-owned parking garage on Winooski Falls Way has attracted people to stay overnight and or use illegal drugs and or defecate and urinate and or leave trash or belongings. We have increased directed police patrols when we can, but our lean police staff means we cannot be there at all the times we would need to deter people from illicit behavior. Meanwhile, this population is among our most vulnerable, likely experiencing a homelessness and or mental health challenge and or substance use disorder. This population is more likely than average to be victim to violence, theft, and overdose, and not being found in time. Staff and the mayor have been exploring options for over a year on best ways to help folks in this situation. We are doing what we can currently, which is to keep offering them services when we see them. However, we usually don't see the people who are using these emergency egresses inappropriately in the garage. In recent months, someone or multiple people have opened up walls in the emergency egress. This is not something we can tolerate because it drastically increases the fire risk to users of the city-owned garage and the buildings that surround it, including student housing in stories 2 through 7, small businesses on the ground floor, and the Vermont Student Assistance Corporation that owns the north side of the outer building. We came to City Council on May 5th, 2025, requesting authorization for an emergency purchase of security cameras. As city manager, I do have authorization by the council adopted purchasing policy to make this purchase without council authorization if staff used a request for proposals process. Given the severity of the situation and unavailability of staff to draft a request for proposals, I went to council on May 5th for the emergency authorization so we could waive the RFP requirement. As you know, council had strong concerns about the purchase itself, and the vote failed 2-2. So I opted to come back to council with more information regarding these concerns. Staff have provided the information requested about how we use the security camera footage in the packet in advance. In summary of that, the goal is to be able to offer services, since these folks accepting services is the only path to a sustainable outcome for them, or for the city, or for our taxpayers. Staff also answered several other questions from council, either in packet materials or in subsequent emails. Staff would also like to reinforce the public safety and health issue created by the situation we are in, that we believe we've made the case that the security cameras are our best option to address. Fire Chief, Code Enforcement Director, and Health Officer John Oddie will discuss these. And then Police Chief Justin Huizenga and the team lead for key police department partner community outreach, Hannah Toof, are also here to answer any questions that pertain to them. John, please. Any questions in the meantime?
Thank you.
Good evening. So not typically compelled to come to council and advocate. This is beyond advocating for, a direction. This is truly a public health and public safety matter that continues to escalate. What makes it exciting, worthwhile to work in Winooski for a lot of us is the approach we take. And that is being able to get where people are at, offer them services. There are not many instances where the situation escalates where several parts of the public are at risk, the people are at risk themselves, and our city staff are at risk. The health issues there include, used needles, which isn't unusual. They're in our community. This is, it's a fairly small space. So when the city staff are removing 15 to 20 needles at a time from a pocket in the stairwell or a broken part of the wall, or people are defecating in buckets or on the stairwells, writing graffiti in blood, it's a biohazard. It's a biohazard for the public. It's a biohazard for your staff. So again, I don't typically get to the point I am in front of you tonight of, this is real and it continues to escalate. And I wholeheartedly agree that there's a bigger question about homelessness. Winooski is not going to solve that alone. I think we all acknowledge that. There's nothing in that we've asked that says we're trying to solve the homelessness problem here. From my standpoint, I'm trying to keep the public safe. I'm trying to protect the people that are doing this because they are in harm's way, and certainly city staff. I'll share a story with Spinner. Recently, we went there for a fire call, smoke in the building. When I arrived, pretty quickly, we had smoke on 4 floors of that building. Different people coming out of the building reporting smoke in that building. Approximately probably 70 people self-evacuated. As we went on, and I remind you, I had to call in 3 other communities to help us find this source of smoke. We rely on these very stairwells for people to safely egress. And I had three, not one, not two, I had three individuals that came out late in the event and said, I would rather be in the building and wait and see if it's real than travel those stairwells. That's how unsafe people feel. It's real. And this is a tool for us to identify someone is spending time in that garage, in your stairwells. We are allowing them to use it as living space. It is an egress. It is meant to allow safe egress in the event of emergency. And we are not providing that to the public. We are not providing that to the public. If it was any other public building in the city, you wouldn't even know. I would shut that building down. I would force that owner to take immediate action, to include possibly putting cameras so that they can figure out the timing, the individuals, not for criminal, but to stop the action and try to get to where those people are. The last story I will share is, a lot of the emails. I take great pride in being here in Winooski, and you should with your staff, of how hard we try to get to where people are at. And that happens without people even knowing. And a story of taking a person that was in harm's way, that, there's an eviction. He was going to end up on the street. This is a real story. Take his stuff in our own personal vehicles, not city vehicles, after hours. Go get our own vehicles, come back, get that individual stuff, rent the storage unit, put his belongings in there with the agreement that he goes and gets services. He does, and then I personally drove his stuff to Wolcott, to where he was getting services. That was a Winooski resident that needed help. We went the extra mile to do it. That's only one story. I'm sure it happens every day. This is not about, us not wanting to help these people. They're damaging your property, the city's assets, and they're preventing safe egress from a building, a very important building, and a very dangerous building in the wrong situation. So for what it's worth, I don't come to you very often and look at all of you. I have goosebumps. I don't get that way. I've been doing this 34 years, and it's escalated to the point where we need all the tools we can to try to identify, and at the very minimum, be able to protect the people transversing that and living in that building, so I can get them out there. They can help me get out of there safely. So, thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Only if there's questions.
Does anyone have questions now, or you want to wait for? Yeah, let's hear from Chief and Howard Center.
They
Oh,
will just
only
respond
here
to
for
questions, right? Yeah.
Okay.
They don't have anything prepared, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you want to come introduce yourself at least? I don't
So
think we've
in
had the
that case,
pleasure of
we do
meeting
have-
before.
Yeah, let's introductions for them.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Welcome, Chief.
Okay, hi, I'm Hannah Tooth. I'm the program coordinator for Howard Center's community outreach team. I don't know if everyone's aware of our program, but we're embedded in the police department, respond community-wide to social service needs.
It's nice to meet you. I don't think I have before. Thank you very much. We're very appreciative. And as you know, our PD is as well, of the important work that you provide to us and regionally.
Thank you.
We're open for any questions. Yeah, I'll start out. So at the last meeting when we discussed this, I think my biggest question was, in what cases do we send out officers or not? I don't feel like that was very specifically covered in the materials that were provided before the meeting. And I don't need like a list per se, but like some other, like, I guess I'm thinking about timing. If someone is going to the bathroom in the stairwell and you see that on the camera, by the time our folks get there, like, they're probably not there anymore. Like, but maybe they are, and I think that's what the cameras would, like, may or may not show, but the time that it takes to cook and shoot up. like, it doesn't take that long. It doesn't take as long as, like, because we only have 2 people on in most shifts, right? Like, that's, everybody in this room knows that. The public should know that too. So when do they respond, and how do we know that that's an effective means if the person's
So-
already moved on from the stairwell?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, time of day would be a big part of it. You know, if it's a time of day where community outreach is on and we see it's a type of behavior that they can just go to themselves,
Yeah.
we would contact them and see if they can go direct without any type of PD response. If it's outside the hours that they're on, it would automatically be a PD response,
Mhm.
if that answers your question on that side of it.
Well, the question is, what is the thing that we're responding to?
I think everything, right? It depends on the type of behavior that we're seeing, and the ultimate goal for us is to provide some type of service, whatever that may be. If somebody's in that stairwell for an extended period of time, there's obviously a route to that or an issue there that they're having to navigate.
Yeah.
So the purpose would be to get there and then introduce whatever type of service that we think would benefit them.
Okay.
So even if that's, seeing somebody, if we can't respond in real time, which to your point, there's only 2 of us on and we can't, but we might be able to ID that person just based on previous encounters, or Hannah's team could ID that person, and then we could even follow up with them at a later date in a later location or a
Right.
different location if we
Right.
saw.
Establish some continuity
Sure,
care or
yeah.
something like that. And I think I felt like I asked the question pretty plainly in our last conversation. Like, is it the case that if someone isn't actively moving through the space without pause, is that where we start to look at that footage closer? And it sounds like yes, if someone's not actively using the point of egress as a point of egress to go up or down the stairs in one direction or the other, that's when surveillance would begin, past the point of just generally being on camera and someone taking note of their behavior.
Yeah, I think what we want to do is we want to get down there
Mm-hmm.
and offer some type of service. Again, if it's somebody just in the stairwell getting out of a thunderstorm, we'll be able to see that and
Right.
make sure that they're okay. But if it's something that goes a little bit longer, then the more service we can bring in.
Okay, thank you guys.
One thing that kind of struck me as interesting that I actually it wasn't mentioned in May. And I didn't realize it until Charlie mentioned it to me. Is there just a generic irritating alarm that exists in the garage?
There used to be alarms on the doors, on the door handles.
Yep.
They've all been destroyed, and the city has replaced them time after time after time. So that was supposed to be a deterrent of,
Okay.
of that.
Vandalism.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and so we have tried to do the nuisance, if you will. Something, but they've asked, you have thousands of dollars to do to replace the fire. And I'm not sure that includes putting the nuisance alarms back on.
I think it was specific to the 3rd floor.
Yeah.
That one nuisance alarm.
Okay, because I personally called in when there was a persistent alarm going. And they're like within the last month, I think.
So there is a generator, there is a separate alarm going off on the
Okay.
generator that we've been called to a few times,
Okay,
and we've been tracking down. It's a trouble alarm on the generator that's on the 3rd floor.
okay,
It's a high pitched.
yes,
But the alarm on the door is very loud.
yeah.
It's made to deter people from
Okay, so, it sounds like there used to be nuisance alarms, that existed, those have since been destroyed. Is that correct?
Yeah, so again, the city has a long history, there's, the garages, I'm not gonna say always had issues, but there has been issues at the garage. This persistence and the level of damage that's being done, breaking between the walls and living in the cavities, breaking all the ceiling tiles, the graffiti, the smashing the door handles, that escalated. So, there has been the occasional vandalism, if you will, going around there. I will say the fire alarm, the false alarms that were happening a year ago, we went there a lot. We didn't put cameras in, someone else did. And the individuals were pretty quickly identified and ended.
Interesting. The cameras are back out again.
but they're not city-owned, they're privately owned.
Okay.
In itself would create a problem for it's city property.
Okay, and then it sounds like the nuisance alarms are not functioning, or at least not reliably functioning, just to close that thread out. Okay, and thank you for letting me know that that was actually a thing that I didn't know about. Yeah.
Yeah, so I wasn't here at the meeting on the 5th, but I did go over and review what was discussed there, as well as all of the kind of questions and discussions that have gone back and forth. I feel like some context that's really important here is not at all like disbelief that this is happening or that this is an issue, but that there's really framing this in this wider context of holding that we're in a current government situation where people are being disappeared, quite literally. So like that like thinking about how we identify people and how we are interacting with them and how we are saving their information and who then gets access to that. I know that I received an answer on sort of the procedures of that, but I do feel like that's really important to underline, that it's not a disbelief that there is this thing happening or that there is this danger. It's taking into account these other potential dangers. I also feel like we keep having this discussion of saying that they've refused services, and that in a way that feels very dismissive of the humanity of these folks, considering that services statewide are so unreliable, and we, again, like the larger Vermont system we know is an issue, and I know there's been advocacy, but we have this greater issue that we don't want to accidentally cause more harm to when we're trying to limit harm. So I just felt like that context is really important, because I appreciate city staff as well as our partners for working with us on this, but I just like need to underline that that understanding of it is kind of holding these two pieces of harm and trying to do the least amount possible and trying to do harm reduction. One question that I've been kind of mulling on with all of this is, are there other harm reduction things that we can do? In this, for like a very basic one, can we put more sharps boxes in places where we're having these issues? I believe that we still have them in like our community center and our library. It would make sense to extend that further. So what other harm reduction means are we putting into place? So that's a question that I have. And if we're thinking about money and the funds that we have or are using, again, just thinking about the ways to reduce harm and danger to everyone. I also going back to Charlie's question of, I am wondering if you can get a little bit more specific and say, walk me through what a response would look like if you did see someone urinating in that space.
Yeah, so I think what we would do is just go down there and interact with them and let them know that this isn't some place that you should do this, and here are the other options where you could do this. And is there an underlying issue of why this is happening? Are you somebody that's houseless? Are you somebody that's struggling with mental health? Are you somebody that's struggling with substance abuse? And if there are those other underlying factors, then we can address those too.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that. How about if it's someone sleeping in the space?
Well, again, the goal would be not to put somebody out into like a more dangerous spot.
Yeah.
But the goal would be to try to find a safer spot. You know, that especially in the wintertime, that garage provides kind of a false sense of security. You know, the concrete is a lot colder than the ambient temperature is outside. So the fear of somebody going to sleep and getting hypothermia and not waking up is very real. And we wouldn't know that until it was too late, right? So again, not necessarily displacing them, but to place them in a better, safer spot, and not just hypothermia, assaults from other people using the stairwell. You know, there's a lot of things that go in there that we don't want to happen.
Definitely. What are some of the spots that they could go to instead, or that you might refer them to?
So maybe I can speak to this. We had talked about a workflow of what it might look like. Say, you know, at night, police can see someone has started staying there. My team starts work at 8:30 in the morning. So we talked about, so usually I'll have someone call each police department and say, hi, outreach is on for the day. This would be the perfect time at 8:30. We call Winooski, talk to dispatcher to get the relay. Hey, there's someone who was found to be sleeping in the stairwell. Officers made contact. They said that they would, you know, be there when you got on at 8:30 to go and make that connection. So that would look like our team literally going out there, meeting them, probably like given the temperature, what kind of day, right? Do we say, hey, you slept outside, it's really cold, let me get you a hot coffee? Well, we talk about options. We have some access to warm weather gear. Sometimes we have tents. It's all based on like donations and what's available. But it would be, so some people know the resources and they're unavailable to them for certain reasons. So that's when we have that conversation and we can brainstorm, okay, what can break down a barrier? You can't go to COTS because COTS doesn't allow substance use. Are you interested in addressing substance use? So that becomes available. So we give options. Some of them, I hear what you're saying, are kind of unrealistic. I've definitely heard the term like, oh, they refuse services. No, a service didn't exist. But our job is to talk through what does exist, what is possible. Harm reduction. It's not safe to be in this stairwell for A, B, C, and D. Sometimes when we actually just tell them, they're like, I wouldn't want to, right? Like someone has to evacuate, they don't see me, they trip, harm. I don't want to do that either. So we talk about, you know, I know that some people are going here, 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 kind of the off the beaten path resources. We also talk about the very real resources. So there's the Champlain Inn, COTS. There's definitely like talk of other things coming into fruition. Fortunately, my team is on like email distribution lists. If a resource is becoming available, we're going to hear about it first and address it. The other thing is rapport building, right? Like it's a contact I can now have with someone I didn't know was sleeping outside. So it could be someone that, like I said, kind of knows the resources, it hasn't been working, or it's someone totally new to our community. I am finding there are a lot of people who just didn't know that just up that hill and down, like they can have access to A, B, C, D, and E, and we're probably eligible. So that's really important. When this topic, I first heard about it, I was like, oh, this is actually great, because a lot of our work is we're told about encampments or people camping, but when we work, our hours, we go out to it, they're gone for the day. So we're never making that contact. So if we can actually say, hey, someone was here and we told them to stick around, meet you, we're actually going to be able to have more meaningful contacts, I hope. The other piece I wanted to speak to is around, Elaine mentioned it when kind of giving the synopsis of, I also think for this vulnerable population, their own safety. Just last week, I got called to a couple who are living outside, got all of their stuff dropped off to them at the bus stop, had to walk away for a minute. Everything they had was taken, stolen. And police can't do anything because there was nothing, no footage, no one to really take that charge further. And so they had nothing, and now what they did have was taken. So very often we are responding to our vulnerable, unhoused population, people who, if not totally living outside, spending most of their life outside, are becoming victimized by others.
I really appreciate those details and you walking through them. Just thinking too, I believe it sounds like this was asked of just what it doesn't, I'm trying to think of exactly how to phrase this.
Could I maybe answer one other question where I think maybe you might be going with this? you know, at the end of the day, if all those factors come into place and that is the best case scenario for that night, then we're not going to force anybody out of there to answer that question. We're going to reconnect with them, either Hannah's team or our team in the morning, and come up with a plan. You know, that's not, the goal is to not displace, it's to place. And if that, again, all the factors line up and that's the best we can do for the next 6 hours, then that's okay.
Okay.
Does
I
that help?
appreciate it. Yeah, that is really helpful. Just, yeah, again, making sure that we're grounding in that people first approach, which I know and very much appreciate that Winooski's teams do. I think the one other question that I have is thinking of that following up based on information that was recorded. Just kind of getting a sense if it was someone shooting up, are those going to be looking at criminal charges, or is it going to be like this person had things stolen, or there was an assault in the stairway, we're following up on those. So just kind of like, where's that line of like ensuring that folks just kind of existing aren't criminalized?
Right. Yeah. No, that's a very good question. And we certainly wouldn't be in a position where we're going to criminalize personal use stuff or anything like that.
Okay. Thank you.
I am probably one of the few counselors that spend quite a bit of time down on Winooski Falls Way and use the garage frequently, and have coworkers that use the garage frequently. Something that's been asked for is improved lighting. Just the other night when I was walking down on Winooski Falls Way, I noticed like the street lights aren't even all functional. And that was an issue probably a year or two ago, and I mentioned it to John, and I don't know if that was ever looked into or if repairs were ever made or not. But I do think lighting in general is an exceptionally helpful deterrent. And I know that's not part of the request right now for this particular agenda item, but I want to take a moment to just note that it's been requested by heavy users of the space. And to my knowledge, there hasn't been identified a path forward on that to improve lighting or to even repair electrical issues that are nearby on street lighting. So Hannah, do you provide, so it sounds like your team probably provides support to Burlington Police Department?
So it's a separate team. So there's street outreach, which serves just Burlington. I was on that team for 8 years.
Okay.
Then came to community outreach, which is the 9 surrounding towns.
Okay, so then you wouldn't be able to speak to issues at the Burlington garage and.
I mean, I can speak to when I was there 2 years ago, and it was, I mean, I think this is, they have, to my knowledge, I even heard just recently, like security stationed there all the time.
And that would, do you know if that's third-party contractor?
I don't know the details. I think I've seen like GMCS there. I've heard of someone just recently who worked for Securitas and was there.
Okay.
So it sounds like other, yes,
Okay.
sounds like that.
Yeah, I got a quote, I mentioned this in one of the memos, maybe a couple years ago, and it was GMCS at that time.
Okay.
John came on if you wanted, I think, for a response to the lighting question.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks. So we do pretty consistently replace lights in the downtown. Unfortunately, those streetlights are getting of age. So, I mean, annually, quarterly, we are replacing those LED lights. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few out now, and we do have a contractor that we have on board that will come in and replace those. You'll see flagging on light poles that aren't working. And then I have heard comments about lighting in the garage. We did, with VIC support, retrofit all of the lighting in the parking garage in 2010. And that was about $130,000 cost, I believe, based on some information Angela provided. So typically we wouldn't go through and replace those lights until the end of their useful life, which is anticipated to be 20 years. So, you know, that's looking at FY31, you know, but obviously if there is a desire or demand to do that, that's just something we have to discuss during budget, to upgrade those lights.
I think I had asked about street lighting, and there was a comment that some streetlights are owned by GMP and some are owned by us. So are the lights on Winooski Falls Way owned by us or by GMP?
Those are owned by us. So the shorter, say shorter, they're like 16 foot, the gray poles. Those are all city lights. So all the lights in the downtown are owned by the city. The larger Cobra head lights are owned by GMP. We actually increased the lumen rate for the ones at the crosswalk. That was a request that we got a year or two ago. So those ones we actually improved. I think it was like about a year or two ago. So yeah, I mean, you know, there are, unfortunately with lighting, they do burn out and we have to replace them, but it is something we are constantly doing.
And then just to comment on the path forward on the lighting, there was an earlier version of the reserve balance tracking spreadsheet where we had combined security cameras and lighting upgrades as one security approach, and pending an RFP process, which we're attempting to short circuit and address the more pressing issue that's threatening the safety of the building and everyone using it.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Do we have additional questions on council?
Do you mind if I circle back around to
Please.
thinking about other harm reductions that might be done, say, in addition to cameras,
Sure.
such as having more sharps containers?
Yeah, so we had a little working group for a while trying to figure out how we were going to spend that money productively back before they had imposed more restrictions on how we could use that. And one of the few things that came up was sharp boxes. And at that time, we were trying to figure out, okay, great, who's going to empty them? And at that time, the answer was like, nobody on staff is going to do that because you can't do it safely. But then since then, my understanding is they've created ones where it's like the whole containers, you can just remove a very, you know, it's a safe removal bag or something. But we just haven't had time to circle back on that. So it is possible. And at least at that time understands we could use opioid money for that. So, you know, that's both the solution and or a type of solution and the funds for that in a nice tidy little box. But yeah, we haven't been able to get around to that. And it sounds like John's got some comments.
Yes, I can add my 2 cents. So right now, the level of vandalism that's happening in those stairwells, where we would, in that area, that we would like to get those boxes. In fact, it was talked at leadership, as mentioned. But the level of vandalism, you know, they're smashing fire doors. They're taking the hardware off the doors. They're hard barricading the doors shut. They're smashing the fire alarms off. They're breaking through fire code, sheetrock. So, you know, hopefully we get there. But we've got to deal with this vandalism.
So you would like to see the cameras first and then the boxes might be more stable to put in there?
Yeah, so it's a complete assumption, right? But what I'm seeing is, you know, someone or some individuals are spending a period of time there and they're being very disruptive. They're working hard to bust through sheetrock and then into these cavities. It is more than someone that needs a place to sleep. This is someone that is damaging property. And we're not doing anything about it. We haven't been able to get there.
I'll also say that once we have security cameras in and when the team is able to actually connect with the people doing this behavior, then we would be better informed as to what interventions might make sense. So that's a point that Hannah made earlier. So it could be sharps boxes, maybe it's something else, and we'll just be better informed as to how to spend that money wisely.
Do we have any questions from members of the public on this topic?
One quick one.
Yeah.
Does it make sense to start considering like a shelter or something like it?
I don't think Winooski has enough money to do that. Because it's an ongoing expense, not just for the place, but the staffing and. Right, we have trouble at adding one full-time person, let alone
I
the staffing that would require.
with financing aside, would it benefit all of us? Would it meet their needs? Would it help them meet their own needs? And then in tandem with some of these other approaches, perhaps get them to stop participating in the deviant behavior?
So Hannah is going to be able to speak more in a more informed way about this, but my understanding from trying to find out what we should do for this community over the last year or so is that we need better services and more services. So it's not just the shelter, but the wraparound services that are actually going to help those folks in a sustained way. So that's a lot for one community to take on, which is why part of our advocacy has been at the state level. It's like we need more investment at the state level so that these folks that are not just spending one place, spending all their time in one location can access those services and help all of our communities. If you want to add anything, Hannah.
Yeah. I think, the other thing is when you talk about shelter, there are conversations that there's whole positions in Burlington around like the assistant to solving unhoused. There's whole programs, and I think yes, it is needed. I just don't know that the scale. Right? Yes, it would be helpful. Don't know if that's something we could do right now.
Well, I know at the last conversation, there were questions about what intervention or response would look like, concerns about cost, the camera data storage. I think most of that has been addressed in the meeting packet, email exchanges, and discussion tonight, but I just want to make sure there's any outstanding concerns from council that you feel like haven't been addressed enough yet.
There were some questions that I don't believe were addressed, which were, has anybody talked to downtown Winooski or downtown businesses? I don't know if you covered this at your most recent meeting.
Sorry, in regards to if they would like
If they're
cameras.
aware about it, if they have provided feedback on it.
I think, yeah, Downtown Winooski hosted a series of meetings that I had told council about, where they met with both of the chiefs and business leaders, and this was coming up a year and a half ago.
You mean the Tuesday morning safety meetings?
Yeah. I mean, it's been coming up to that for them for multiple years as an issue. So, I think they, like most of us, realize cameras aren't going to fix the issue, but they'd like to see some steps taken. But yeah, no, this has been something they've been working with the chiefs and I believe Elaine about for a while.
Yeah, there weren't any meeting notes that I was able to review from that, so which is why I'm asking the question.
Right, yeah.
I would add to that, I know staff have been contacted numerous times by concerned businesses. And I recently had reached out to a couple that I had heard had concerns who had I invited them to come share, which unfortunately it seems no one was able to make it. But there were two who got back to me and I can forward those out afterwards, who said yes, I would like to see this action taken. I'm concerned about what's happening and how it's impacting my business.
Other questions that I'm not sure were addressed are there frequent meetings, or has there been at least meetings on this particular topic with I don't know if there's an HOA board for Spinner or the owner of the building, or for BSAC, another property owner that is, utilizes the same block and the same garage.
So one of the entities that reaches out to us on a regular basis is Redstone, which manages the Spinner Place units, and then HKW Retail manages all of the retail spaces, commercial spaces on the ground floors. And they're off and on in contact also.
Okay. Anything else outstanding? Well, I will share that I appreciate the diligent amount of follow-up that's occurred following the last discussion, and how engaged all of you have been. I hate spending money. It's a large amount that's being asked for here, which does require some due diligence, but I appreciate how human-centered the approach is, like that this, while on the surface sounds like surveillance, is actually a method to allow the more frequent and sustained contact that you need to be able to serve these individuals, while also meeting our obligations to protect the public safety of the hundreds of other folks that are using this public asset. I remain supportive of this request, as I was at the previous meeting. I will entertain a motion to approve the emergency purchase request for security cameras for the Cascades garage.
Do you mind, is there any additional public comment? I know some folks are late.
Judy, are you here about the garage cameras or the tax rate? Okay, please.
We just need her to come to the microphone.
Yeah, sorry. Judy, can you come up to the microphone?
One thought I had when I was reading the agenda and the attachments was we have the second garage coming online in this fall. Is that when it's going to be coming on? And isn't the same sort of situation going to occur there? Are we managing that garage?
Thankfully, no, we are managing it, but there are no stairwells in that. It's just because the access is just on the floors.
From the
They're just both
doors?
there.
The garage doors?
No, they're,
You can drive into every level.
yes, right.
Okay, so you're saying,
And you can walk
People-
out of there.
well, will people be able to get into that garage from the exterior?
Yes, yeah.
Well, then, I
There,
mean,
but there's no enclosed spaces the way there are with these stairwells.
so you're confident that the same sort of situations won't be occurring there?
Right.
And so we're not going to be faced with another request for more cameras in there.
Well, we might, but not because of this. John, do you have comments about that?
Yeah, so the new garage will have cameras on each level, just like the existing one does now. So each parking deck in the existing garage has cameras on each end. And so will this new garage. The issue that, we're talking about tonight is specifically the stairwells. That's sort of the blind spot right now where unfortunately things are happening, so. But yeah, confirmed, we won't have the stairwell issues like we do in the existing garage, the new one.
Okay, thanks. I guess I understand better now. Well, I just don't want to see another, multi-$1,000 request to use reserve funds for some unforeseen circumstance or whatever the terminology is these days might occur there. And, it seems to me, sure, this money is reserve money, right? But, this money could be used for something else if we didn't need to use it for that, something more beneficial to everybody or whatever, I hate to see this.
Judy, the money for this reserve request is parking garage reserves for structural maintenance. It isn't the general unassigned reserve pool for the city. It's specific to parking garage capital expenses.
Okay, fine, but I'm sure there's plenty of capital expenses for maintenance that are gonna come along in that garage that would be something that we'd be happier about spending money on. That's all, it's just too bad, it's too bad.
Yeah.
And I understand, I guess from my reading, that Elaine, you folks did a lot of research on other ways to deal with this, and this is the most financially feasible, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And we're not the only ones facing something.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not even a little bit.
And
Anyone with a garage is dealing with this issue.
personally, I don't see it going away for a long time, unfortunately. So, okay, that's all I had to say. Thanks.
Thank you.
I do have to say that given that we are facing this challenge, which is national at least, I'm actually pretty happy about spending this money this way because it will help, assuming council agrees to.
Okay. Sir, did you have any comment on this one?
Not on this
Okay.
subject. Is there an opportunity for me to speak at some point?
Yeah, when we move on to the next item. Okay. With that, I was seeing if there was a motion to approve this emergency purchase request.
So moved.
There's a motion by Thomas. Would anyone like to second?
Second.
Motion by Thomas, second by Bryn. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to extend my thanks and appreciation to Elaine and to the staff. I know that you've gotten an excessive amount of questions from us, but I do think that it just speaks to how concerned we all are at all the various facets of the situation. And there's so many things that are nuanced in it. So thank you as well to Hannah for taking time to come tonight. And it's nice to meet you in person. And I agree, you know, due to your comments, it's unfortunate to have to use this money this way. But thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think I said this at the last meeting. This is the conversation that this community would want us to have. So glad we had it.
Okay. Thank you. We'll move on to item B, setting the fiscal year 2026 municipal tax rate. Angela.
So this is a pretty straightforward item. The calculation remains the same annually. So the grand list is set as of April 1st, following any appeals for tax value that have gone to the assessor. This is the final grand list according to Ted with Vermont Appraisal Company. So we aggregate the total grand list for real property, personal property, and commercial adjustment values, and that is plugged into a formula with the amount to be raised by taxes, and we calculate out to the thousandths place, tens of thousands place, for our tax rate. And we are estimating this year a 3.14% increase, which is less than the amount we estimated during the budgeting process, which was 3.99%. In addition, the city does provide additional exemptions for veterans above and beyond the 10,000 base election. So we do have to raise additional property taxes to cover the taxes waived for those properties. We have 14 properties that receive a veterans exemption for the current fiscal year. And we did receive the school tax rates, so I was able to calculate that in advance of this meeting. This year, our local options tax rate is going to be 0.0009. And then the municipal tax rate would be 0.7836.
Thank you. Any questions from council?
Good news.
Thomas, I don't know if you had anything to share. Did you want to talk about this agenda item or something else?
Yeah, we had
Just talk about something
Okay.
that bring up.
we had public comment before you got here, but when we finish the regular items, I'll invite you up. This is our last one, so it won't be long. All right. Certainly, come on up.
So I understood Angela to say that she got the education tax rate? What is that?
Yes. So the homestead tax rate is going to be 1.2403. It is a decrease of 0.0198, or 1.57% decrease for the homestead school tax rate.
Okay. Good, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Any public comments online? You can use the chat or raise hand feature. All right, seeing no further comment, do I have a motion to approve setting the fiscal year 2026 municipal tax rate as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Aurora, second by Charlie. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, please join us.
Thank you. Yes. My name is Thomas Lockettell. I live in Winooski. And I just want to get the council's take on the proposal of putting up the pavilion that I have made at Landry Park.
This isn't something that's come to us yet or that I have any familiarity with. I wouldn't be
Well,
able
then
to
now's a
comment.
good time. Simple.
I will solicit information from staff for us and
Okay.
get back to you outside of this meeting.
Because it's been 2 summers now since I've completed this structure with the intention of giving it to Winooski or having Winooski take part in making it happen. And I've been dealing with Ray Coffey about this for the last 2 years. And I'm seeing this construction season starting to run out a little bit. I know it's still early, but I just wanted to get this in front of some people other than the person with whom I'm dealing. There has been some progress, and I know, to put it bluntly, it's going to just wind up being a money thing. I think that might be the impediment to having this completed. But I don't need to go on and on about it. Here is just, it's a very simple structure. It's a timber frame structure. It's been built and pre-fitted into such that when it is time to put it up, it would go rather quickly. The holdup that I'm aware of is that the contractor who potentially will be used to put in footings and post anchors could either be dragging their feet, or I don't really know what's going on. I've been dealing with Ray Coffey on this, and it just seems to be a real slow walk. And in order for me to feel comfortable about it and to know whether it's going to be a yes or a no, I would ask that this is brought to someone's attention and a decision is made one way or the other so that I can move on. Because this is also related, I don't know, you're probably aware that I've been at the O'Brien Center for all this time. And part of it was doing this thing. But as I said before, this has been done for almost 2 years. And in the meantime, I've been making all this other stuff, which I would like to gift to the city as well. So this is important to me because this came from, I wouldn't call it an historical building. It's 546 East Allen, that building that was torn down by the Digest Company, and now that beautiful apartment building's there. So every piece in here came out of that. So just to give you an overview, I'm here, I'm in the background. I'm waiting. The answer, one way or the other, isn't gonna hurt my feelings, but I would really like to see this thing done, and the sooner the better, or at least have a timeline. If necessary, I could develop a flow chart for this so it'd be a realistic timeline if there was an approval, how long this would take and what processes are involved beyond getting the permitting, which is probably the holdup too, as well as getting the money approved, which in my ballpark way of figuring things, I have a number, but that would involve my original plan for this thing, which was basically digging the holes and putting the foundation in myself, which I have done many times. It's not very hard to do. But at the Landry site, and I think this is a good idea, there's an existing concrete slab there that was used for some kind of fairly large building. It got torn down. And I think that would be a pretty good place for this thing, too. It's existing. There doesn't have to be any more footprint on something. That thing's already there, et cetera, et cetera. But it does complicate things, and it would be making it more expensive. Whereas left to my own devices, I could bring this thing under budget and on time in a very short amount of time. Just strutting my feathers here a little bit.
All right. Well, thank you for the details and bringing it to our attention. Like I said, I'll chat with staff this week and
All
reach
right,
out.
well, I'm not pushing. I haven't been pushing. But it has been 2 years now, so I think it might be time to push a little.
Sure, sure.
But thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thomas.
Thank you. And for folks who don't know, there's several structures in some of our natural areas that Thomas has constructed that are really beautiful. So I appreciate you talking to us about this today.
Wow.
I'll hand you.
Okay. That is the end of this evening's agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Bryn, second by Charlie. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming in all.